Gina Wilson's blog post shines a light on a deeply concerning issue: false claims of Indigenous identity in the public service. This isn't just about ticking a box on a form. It's about honesty, respect, and the very soul of reconciliation. When individuals falsely claim Indigenous heritage for personal gain, they undermine the struggles and resilience of Indigenous peoples. Leaders like Max Solis have bravely spoken out against this injustice. Solis, a Mi'kmaq lawyer, has challenged universities and government agencies on their lax verification processes. His work has exposed a systemic issue that demands our attention. We cannot stand by while individuals exploit Indigenous identity for their own benefit. Academics like Veldon Coburn have dedicated their careers to exposing the truth about false claims. Coburn, a citizen of the Algonquins of Pikwakanagan First Nation, has meticulously researched and documented cases of fraudulent Indigenous identity. His work has been instrumental in raising awareness and prompting calls for action. This is a crisis of identity that strikes at the heart of reconciliation. We must confront it with honesty and courage. The time for silence is over. False claims of Indigenous identity carry a hefty price. They divert resources and opportunities away from authentic Indigenous communities. When individuals falsely claim Indigenous ancestry to access scholarships, jobs, or grants, they steal those opportunities from those who rightfully deserve them. This deception perpetuates harmful stereotypes and undermines the genuine experiences of Indigenous peoples. It casts doubt on the legitimacy of authentic Indigenous voices and experiences. It fuels cynicism and mistrust, eroding the very foundation of reconciliation. The emotional toll on authentic Indigenous employees is immeasurable. Imagine working alongside someone who claims to share your heritage only to discover that their claim is false. It's a betrayal of trust that cuts deep. False claims create a hostile work environment for Indigenous employees. They may feel pressured to prove their own identity or face suspicion and doubt. This emotional burden can have a devastating impact on their mental health and well-being. The harm caused by false claims of Indigenous identity is not hypothetical. It's real, it's personal, and it's happening right now. Take the case of Carrie Bourassa, a former professor who rose to prominence as an Indigenous health researcher. Bourassa's claims of Métis ancestry unraveled under scrutiny, leaving a trail of hurt and anger in her wake. In another case, a high-ranking government official was found to have fabricated her Indigenous heritage. This individual had benefited from numerous programs and opportunities designed to support Indigenous peoples. Her deception sent shockwaves through the public service, eroding trust and undermining the government's commitment to reconciliation. These stories are not isolated incidents. They are symptomatic of a systemic problem that demands our attention. We cannot allow false claims to continue unchecked. We owe it to ourselves, to our communities, and to future generations to demand better. The time for complacency is over. The time for action is now. Section 4. Towards a place of truth. Moving forward requires a collective commitment to truth and accountability. We must acknowledge the harm caused by false claims of Indigenous identity and take concrete steps to address this issue. This is not about exclusion, it's about ensuring that programs and services designed to support Indigenous peoples are truly accessible to those who need them. One crucial step is to establish clear and consistent guidelines for verifying Indigenous identity. These guidelines should be developed in consultation with Indigenous communities and should be sensitive to the diversity of Indigenous experiences and perspectives. Transparency is paramount. Government agencies, universities, and other institutions must be transparent about their verification processes. This will help to build trust and ensure accountability. Education and awareness are also essential. We need to educate ourselves and others about the importance of Indigenous identity and the impact of false claims. Section 5. Verification, a necessary step. Implementing identity verification systems is not about creating barriers or exclusion, it's about ensuring fairness and equity. Just as academic institutions require proof of enrollment and identity, so too should organizations that allocate resources or opportunities based on indigeneity. A robust verification process should be respectful and sensitive to the unique histories and experiences of Indigenous communities. It should be developed in close consultation with Indigenous leaders, knowledge holders, and community members. This collaborative approach will ensure that the process is culturally appropriate and does not perpetuate further harm. Some may argue that verification is an invasion of privacy or an unnecessary burden. However, the need to protect the integrity of Indigenous spaces and resources outweighs these concerns. Verification is a small price to pay for ensuring that the benefits intended for Indigenous peoples actually reach them. By adopting verification systems, we are not creating a hierarchy of indigeneity. We're simply acknowledging the historical and ongoing injustices faced by Indigenous peoples and taking steps to address them. Section 6, honoring our collective responsibility. The responsibility for addressing false claims of Indigenous identity rests with all of us. It's not enough to simply be outraged by these stories. We must turn our outrage into action. We must challenge false claims whenever we encounter them. This requires courage and conviction, but it is essential for creating a culture of accountability. We must support organizations and individuals who are working to address this issue. This includes Indigenous-led organizations, academics, and activists who are on the front lines of this fight. Honoring Indigenous identity is not simply about acknowledging the past. It's about building a future where Indigenous voices are respected, Indigenous cultures are celebrated, and Indigenous rights are protected. We can and must do better. Let us create a world where Indigenous identity is celebrated and protected, not exploited. Our collective future depends on it.